Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the weekly comic book roundup. We've actually got a smaller haul than the last few weeks, so let's get started, shall we? Kicking things off, we've got X-Men number 10. It's not a continuation, but the X-Men are dealing with a are having to deal with Orcus still. But anyway, we begin with the resurrection of Wolverine, Laura Kinney, and Proteus accidentally screws things up a teensy bit. He, it turns out that when one of the Wolverines is resurrected, part of what Proteus does for that is give them basically make their skeleton lace their skeleton with adamantium. However, Proteus screwed up this time because he's reminded that with Laura it's just the claws. However, while doing that, he accidentally did the whole skeleton, explaining that he thought all Wolverines had metal bones. But turns out that Rogue is on a Rocco. She's scanning with she's scanning she's scanning Phobos, basically the Orcus facility on Phobos, with a specialized rifle to get intel on the facility itself, and transmitting said information down to and the information is then passed along at the treehouse. And first, one of the catches notice is Nightcrawler's body, which is part of the decor. Next is there's some adamantium, but it appears to be an adamantium signature that is alive. A smaller amount of metal enough for, say, a woman or child, and it's in a box. So Wolverine decides whoever's in the box, she will rescue it. So it took a day to set up the plan. She gets smuggled in, makes her way through, and discovers that there's a containment pod with Lady Deathstrike inside. Turns out that Deathstrike made a deal with Orcus. She's dying of adamantium poisoning. To the point where she can't heal. But she explains that Dr. Stasis said he could, reverse the poisoning. But he changed his mind, saying she was more machine than human, and so apparently claimed to have traded her to Krakoa, but in fact traded her to Phaelong. So Wolverine and Deathstrike make a truce. However, Phaelong discovers their presence and opens the air and shoots her out of space. So Rogue flies out to rescue her, on a rescue mission, saves the two of them. And after Wolverine's resurrection, she offers up, basically gives Lady Deathstroke a blood transfusion to offset the adamantium poisoning. And apparently Destiny has been at the treehouse talking with Rogue, continuing to claim that she's wasting her life with Gambit and her gifts in the treehouse with the X-Men. Rogue counters it by saying that Destiny's always there are always going to be things to fix, and Destiny's acting like the world needs to be burned to the ground. Before Destiny can retort, Rogue cuts her off and explains it and says that she's the one wasting her gifts. And also, she gives Rogue some advice about how to find Game World, telling her to speak to her husband's small blind. Apparently, the card game, the weekly card game with Treehouse is happening. Forge, Gambit, the Thing. Looks like Black Cat, but they're not busted. But they call it the small blind. Rocket Raccoon, who figures that Rogue would want to know a Game World for all the high stakes games that the Rocket doesn't know anything about. No idea why Rogue would think Rocket would know about this place. I mean, that place. But of course, what does she want to know? There's also a communique from Dr. Stasis, with basically more offering her services to Orcus, and a response, accepting her offer, agreeing to meet, and also explaining that he's to be referred to as Doctor, not Mister. He didn't go to Stasis Medical School for 8 years just to be called Mister. That is where the issue ends. Good issue. I really liked how Wolverine handled everything with Deathstrike. That showed some true class, I'd say, and kind of one thing that I feel like it's much more in the spirit of Krakoa, basically. Kind of make a friend out of an enemy, or at least an ally. But, so yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got X-Men 92, House of 92. I had to look up the Roman numeral translation. But, yeah. This is basically House of X done in the animated series universe. But we begin with a similar raid on an orbital Sentinel manufacturing facility. Beast is orbiting it in the Blackbird. Looks like both Beast and Cyclops are killed by Sentinels. Wolverine attacks Trask, and he activates the Orcus protocol. But Magneto destroys the facility, and back on Earth, at the Krakoan Embassy in New York, Psylocke is showing dignitaries around. Apparently, some members of the Friends of Humanity have are outside trying to start some shit. And so, Psylocke contacts Cable, asking for an X-Force strike team at the embassy to deal with some unwelcome guests, and Cable sends Cannonball, Pyro, and Darkstar. But it's shown that, of course, Gyrick is part of the Orchis Protocol. The five for this version of things are Karma, Fabian Cortez, Tempo, Healer, and Proteus. Seeing as how Hope, Elixir, and Egg didn't exist yet, or Tempest didn't exist at the time of the animated series. So, also it seems that Wolverine or Sabretooth is a citizen of Krakoa as opposed to having been thrown in the pit. We get a 2-page thing about the about Krakoa, very 90s style. Yeah, it's actually kind of nice. I dig it. Throughout the issue, though, there's an allusion to an attack on the mansion, which apparently led to Jubilee's death at the hands of Sentinels, which is why Wolverine is so, is even more pissed off than normal. However, Wolverine ends up following Magneto and Xavier to a secluded section of Krakoa, where Jubilee is waiting. Apparently, Jubilee is taking the place of Moira. With the constant resurrections and whatnot, and she explains that the Orchis Protocol is what kicks off. Is the Orchis Protocol being enacted is what starts the beginning of the end. And we saw that among those working for Orchis are Gyrick, Lady Deathstrike, and Donald Pierce. But Wolverine gets a hint of Jubilee's scent outside the secluded section of Krakoa, which is where the issue ends. This is actually since this was announced, I've been really looking forward to it just to see how the differences would play out. I really like the idea of focusing on using mutants of not using characters that hadn't been introduced by the time of the animated series. So good call there, especially replacing Hope with Fabian Cortez, Tempest with Tempo, I think it was Healer with Elixir, which is amusing because Healer actually has been prominently featured in the Krakoan X books as basically the X-Men's Krakoa's trauma surgeon. But anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Elektra, number 100. Now you may be wondering, why are we looking at Elektra 100? We haven't seen Elektra 1 through 99. Well, this is one of those moments of, hey, we published so many books. We published so many single issues focusing on Elektra, and let's about. Oh, hey, it's 100. Or we're at 99. So this is really just In fact, there's even a cover gallery for all of the past issues. I want to see if it maybe includes Daredevil One Without Fear or not. And it does not. But a lot of it is attempts at our miniseries tying into various events, one-shots tying into various stories, and a few minis that she had over the years, and as well as some Marvel Knights ongoing, with Elektra number 1 being basically stated as being Elektra Assassin issue 1. So we got a few stories. Our first one deals with Elektra fighting Typhoid Mary, and some allusion with Elektra remembering that they were in an asylum together, as shown in Elektra Black, White, and Blood #3. But turns out that Mary's there on a protection gig at the behest of her husband, Mayor Fisk. But Elektra manages to capture her. Found a lab in her real estate holdings, and had her there along with. And there's also a doctor she's been working with there. The basic idea is that Mary and the doctor have been working on the idea of basically kind of keeping her patchwork psyche, from being too chaotic. But while all this is happening, a major storm front is coming to New York, and so when the two of them manage to escape, the storm is at full force, and a handful of heroes, including Storm and Thor, are doing what they can to circumvent said storm. But Mary and Elektra actually help some of the, help with the people who've been who had to deal with any damage to their homes and everything, and they come to an agreement. And this also explains the reason that her and Fisk are together is that Mary and Fisk are together is that she gets unstable. She needs security, a rock, and Kingpin was the biggest rock she could find. But they go their separate ways, though. Fight over, and Mary explains that she needs to concentrate to basically remain the dominant personality. But Elektra doesn't exactly think this is the healthiest thing for Mary. But that's where things end. Next we have Waltz. As Matt Murdock is walking through Hell's Kitchen, a note is basically thrown into a wall by Elektra, saying the ballroom tonight, 9 p.m. We get a montage of what we're led to believe are Elektra and Matt getting ready, though it's not them. They meet in costume, and they have a bit of a waltz, and in some ways it's reminiscent of the sparring sequence from the Ben Affleck Daredevil. Similar but different. But in the end, just as their waltz is about to reach its crescendo, a note is Elektra sticks a note on it lightly into Daredevil's shoulder, saying, "Better, need more practice." And the issue ends with some little comic strips, mini marbles, where Matt introduces Elektra to the Daredevils, Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Iron Fist. Bullseye swears up and down he should be a member, but she pushes him off the building, and well, everyone agrees that she should be. Everyone but Bullseye agrees that she should be the leader of the Daredevils. Then we've got Ninja Super Stories featuring Fantastic Reader Richards talking about ninjas, and then going on to discuss Good Night Moon Knight. Then we got Maddie and Stick, with Stick giving young Matt, some sudden attack training. And finally, Dagger the Hireable. Punisher and Elektra are pinned down by ninjas, and, well, apparently it turns out that Elektra invested heavily in arrow futures and suggested Frank pick up the arrows and can sell them back as inventory. And that is where the issue ends. This was great. I really liked it. I really do wish that Marvel would. I realize it's not Marvel. It's not just Marvel. It's also readers. But it would be nice if Elektra, got an ongoing again. But anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Captain Carter #2. Where we left off, Peggy Carter had been discovered and in the modern age, and went right back to being the superhero symbol of the British Empire, of Britain. It turns out that over the last few years she's been dealing with Hydra attacks. There have been some new laws brought up, which some people are not too are questioning, for good reason. But she's dealing with a Hydra attack at a mall, brings them all down. At Strike, they're looking into the Hydra operatives. It turns out that up to a point, the trail, any paper trail that's been disappear ends. And sadly, they're only finding out about these attacks after they've been kicked off. But some intel is passed along. They need to. There's an arms shipment coming in at the docks, so they go to the docks. Turns out the person in charge of the arms deal is Batroc. Batroc escapes during the scuffle. Peggy catches up with him, though, brings him down. Turns out, however, it wasn't a weapons deal. It was a human trafficking ring. And Peggy tells everyone in the cargo containers are safe and to be taken care of. The next day, she's informed of more recent policy in the UK about what happens with migrants, basically. And she's informed by a friend of her neighbor that they're put in internment camps so they can be stuck up and deported. Part of the new law being that anyone entering the country illegally can't claim asylum. And this leads to Peggy and Elizabeth going to speak to the Prime Minister, and basically kind of saying, she's helping people. She's there to help people, all people. And a veiled threat is made to Betsy about ending up like her father and her mother. As Betsy and Peggy leave the PM's office, they talk for a while before going their separate ways. And when Betsy arrives home, well, there's people waiting on her. Armed people. And that is where the issue ends. I'm really enjoying the Captain Carter series. I really am, and I like the Captain Carter episode What If, so, I think this is... I'm fairly certain it was actually a classic issue of What If, like, way back in the day, centering on the idea of Peggy Carter becoming Captain America, so... Or rather, a super soldier. But I kind of like the idea of kind of going that, thanks to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some What If concepts are being revisited thanks to the Disney Plus What If series. So, but also that they're being revisited not just in the series, but also in comic form. Moving on to our last book for the moment, we've got Star Wars number 22. Where we left off, Sergeant Kess Dameron of the Rebel Alliance had been discovered on the Star Destroyer, not Kess Dameron, Shara Bay, Kess Dameron's wife, was discovered aboard the Star Destroyer Tarkin's Will, and she was discovered by Commander Zara. Kess is planning a rescue mission to save Shara from the Empire. However, the issue opens with a contingent from Crimson Dawn arriving aboard Home 1, bearing gifts, so Lady Kira states. Intelligence, and, the offer to help make sure that, since the Rebel Alliance is relying heavily on crime syndicates, who are currently at war with one another, for supplies, Crimson Dawn is offering to pick up the slack on that one. But then, of course, Kira thought maybe she'd also like to see, she'd like to see Chewbacca, her old friend, who's an old friend. Chewbacca is basically has set up a training simulation for rescuing Han from Jabba's palace, with training drones to set up to basically to attack in a manner similar to the various possible the possibilities that Chewie would face in Jabba's palace. And when Kira says hello to him, though, he kind of nods, but keeps his finger on the trigger of his bowcaster. On the Tarkin's Will, it turns out that Commander Zara has been interrogating Shara Bay, and everything that Shara told her is the stuff that Zara already knew. How Shara survived, all the things that they stole, the troopers and officers she killed. What she wants to know are the things that she doesn't know. The new communications code the rebels have devised. And Zara threatens her son, Poe, which is what gets Shara to potentially talk. But when it comes to the offer of assistance, when it comes to supplies, Kira is instructed to talk with Captain Holdo. However, before Holdo can have her talk with Kira, some of the intelligence that has been preferred, including the location of the Tarkin's Will, including various bits of intel on Imperial fleet movements, have been analyzed, found to be legitimate, and Holdo informs Leia that Kess Dameron took the Starlight Squadron and the Pathfinder Squadron to go rescue Shara Bay. And but Leia insists on sending a transmission to the squadron, but there's no response. The plan is for Starlight Squadron to engage the fighters of Tarkin's Will, while Pathfinder Squad's U-wing basically lands within the damaged portions of the ship to rescue Shara. The fighters are set out, and it's noted that it seems to be a distraction. the fighters, that is. And so, Tarkin's will jumps into hyperspace. Having gotten the location of a rebel fleet division on Panacea. And so, Tarkin's will jumps to hyperspace with the Pathfinders aboard. They arrive at Panacea, where the Rebel Alliance Fleet 2nd Division is stationed, and Tarkin's will begins opening fire when all manner of Alliance ships drop out of hyperspace. And Zara is quite pleased with this turn of events, figuring that the rebels likely think they've won. She couldn't have planned it better herself, and that is where the issue ends. Things are definitely getting interesting. As I understand it, we're actually building towards the 25th issue of this current Star Wars run. But yeah, that will do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spot signing off, saying live long and rock hard.